Tim James, thank you so much for joining us on the Plant Trainers podcast today.
I am very happy to be here with you two to share our message and help those that are out there that are willing and open to listen.
That's all it's about. It's about helping people, giving them information and letting them take it and roll with it and improve their quality of life. And before we get into that information, we wanted to know if you have a moment of gratitude to share with us and the listeners.
Yeah, I had a moment of gratitude actually driving over back to my house this morning. I had some stuff to do, and a client called me because before 9 a.m., all the calls are forwarded to my cell phone so that we have good customer service. And I'm always answering stuff before and after. And this guy called me, and they're farmers like I was growing up, and his wife's got lupus. And I had a nice conversation with him and got him going in the right direction. And they're getting some products and, and getting on our group coaching and everything. And I'm really excited because after I hung up that phone, he was so thankful. And he's like, I can't be on the group coaching tonight because I have to bale hay. And I'm like, I know that life, and I'm like, these are my people, and I'm going to help them. I'm really going to help them to help themselves, and help them get the foundation set up and get the body detoxed. And so I'm just so grateful that I literally have people calling me now and coming towards us, and we can just serve and serve and serve. And I don't have to, go looking for anybody anymore. It's kind of fun.
It feels good to have people to help and to know that you're actually helping them. There's no better feeling than that.
Yeah, and I told him I can't wait till they have good results, and then I want a photo of him on the tractor with a can of our greens. That would be cool.
So you have a couple of before and after photos of yourself. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your health journey and how you found a plant-based diet?
Yeah, so I actually grew up in Eastern Oregon on a farm, which I mentioned, a cattle and hay farm. And, I lived on the standard American diet. Meat was beyond a big thing for me. We had our own meat locker, meat saw, meat grinder. I mean, everything. I hunted and fished like all the time. Deer, elk, chuckers, pheasants, quail. I mean, that's all me and my buddies were doing. Like on the way to school, I would shoot pigeons as they would come out of the barn every morning. And it's all we did. So the word vegetarian was even weird. We thought those people were really weird. I didn't even know the word vegan or existed, So what ended up happening was fast forward to age 37, I was 38 pounds overweight. I played baseball at a high level for 30 years, but I was just overweight. I wasn't feeling good. I was tired. I wasn't sleeping well. I had eczema on both of my elbows and my knee. It was, for those of you that aren't aware of that, it sucks because it cracks and bleeds and it ruins shirts and people's couches. And it's embarrassing, like you go to the beach or whatever, not just the big belly, but the bleeding, all the time. Acid reflux, really bad. I was taking Tums and Rolaids like they were going out of style. I finally started bleeding rectally, and that went on for a couple of years, and I wasn't telling anybody. Pretty much almost every time I'd go to number two, and I just wasn't feeling good. And then what happened was I went on a vacation, and I had to be pretty much life flighted to a hospital to get surgery, to have an emergency surgery, get my organ removed. And that's when I realized, like, man, my life I'm really out of control here, but I still didn't know what to do. So shortly after that, a buddy of mine got diagnosed with chronic lymphocytic leukemia. And he said, hey, I they don't have a whole lot for me up here at OHSU, but I'm going to go try to heal myself naturally. So I'm going to go to this detox nutrition clinic in Florida called the Hippocrates Health Institute. And I want you to go with me. So I said, okay, whatever you need, man, because I'd lost my grandma to brain cancer. I lost my aunt to skin cancer. I had just lost a buddy on my baseball team at age 40 to stomach cancer. And Calais was really healthy. I mean, he was healthy. He had 3 little boys from ages 6 to 17, and he did the chemo and the surgery and all that stuff, and it didn't work, and he died 80 pounds under his weight. So here I'm looking at my other buddy, and I'm like, wow, Charles ain't gonna make it. Because my experience with cancer is you get it and you're toast. I mean, you die, and it's not pretty. Like my mom taking care of my aunt with that melanoma was horrible. It wasn't fun, and it was really hard watching Calais lose 80 pounds. As he was dying and taking the morphine drips. So it scared me. It scared me a lot. So when Charles got it, I'm like, yeah, dude, whatever you need. But I thought he was a goner because of my experience. So January 1st, 2011, we fly to the Hippocrates Health Institute in West Palm Beach, Florida. And on the way there, Charles was like, oh, yeah, by the way, there's no meat, no dairy, no salt, no sugar, no vinegar, nothing cooked over 115 degrees. And I'm like, what? And And I was thinking, what am I going to eat? Like no meat? Like you guys have no idea. I kept 5 freezers full. My buddy Sean and I were like Robin Hoods. We'd go out in the middle of the night and shoot a deer and then give it out to all the baseball players because we're all eating top ramen, right? So I'm like, okay, Tim, just put your food stuff aside. They probably have salads. You're here. Your friend's got cancer, for God's sakes. Just focus on him. So I did. And lo and behold, on day 1, my acid and reflux was gone. I went through a healing process. The first few days, they called it a healing crisis. You're basically doing surgery without a knife. And they simply just put us on a bunch of purified water, lemon and lime water, fresh green juices, living foods, sprouts, sprouted nuts, sprouted seeds, sprouted grains, sprouted beans. Everything was like alive, like a wild creature would eat. And you just start healing. And then by Wednesday, you can't even eat anything. You're so saturated with nutrition, you're not even hungry anymore. And I'm just like, wow, this is crazy. So, but I was feeling terrible. I actually had night sweats and I was very irritable on Wednesday night. And they said usually by Thursday or Friday on the program, you'll wake up and feel much better. And I was praying and hoping that tomorrow was the day. And it was. Thursday, I woke up and I felt amazing. Now, some people had it worse than me. Some people, rashes were breaking out as their body was detoxing. People had parasites crawling out their pores. One lady had a parasite crawling out of her eye. So what happened was I was living my life on a highly acid diet that was low oxygen. And what I learned is that brings in harmful organisms like viruses and bacteria and mold and yeast and fungus and these parasites. So what happened is that when you go to that place, they're changing your environment in your body. They're changing the body chemistry and they're making it high alkaline and high oxygen. So the bad guys pack their bags and they leave. And that's why these things, little critters, are crawling out of people, and people were urinating them and defecating them. And so it's just a healing deal. So on Thursday, I woke up, I felt amazing, and I looked at Charles and said, I'm going to do this with you. I said, I'm going to give up all the meat except for bacon, and I'm going to do this with you. And then on the way home, I read the book, The China Study, and after reading that, I'm like, I'm not doing meat at all. So, and I was, I went hardcore into not just plant-based, but raw and even further living food. So I started growing about 80% of the food I was eating. And I still do that to this day. I grow a lot of sprouts, and I sprout everything. So it's the good news was in a little over 2.5 years, Charles was completely well of his cancer, this chronic lymphocytic leukemia. And he did no chemo, no radiations. There was no surgery. It was a blood cancer. And I healed myself. I lost the weight. My eczema cleared up. Everything was healed up in about 60 days. It was really fast, except for my knee. That big patch of eczema on my knee took about 8 months. And I just got inspired. I never looked back, and I quit my career as a financial advisor to tell people about living nutrition and detoxing, and now that's what I do for a living, and I'm very passionate about it, and we have lots of people that we've helped do the same thing that we did.
It's pretty amazing. Congratulations on getting to where you are, and your friend Charles as well. And it's funny that something must have been going on in 2011, because that's when I went through my transition, my transformation, got over my heart disease, my tumor started to shrink. And there's so many other people that we've spoken to that have found plant-based living around that same time. It's pretty neat. You mentioned the term living food and living nutrition. Can you just clarify that for our listeners a little bit?
Yeah, so it just means that it's alive. Now think about every creature on this planet, except for humans, eats a 100% raw and living food diet. That means they go out, and it's like going out to a garden and grabbing a tomato and eating it on the spot. That's living food. And it's really, when you have living food, you get a whole another set of nutrition that's not in picked food that's been sitting there for weeks, right? So you get hormones, which allows the body to communicate better. That's the reason why a lot of people have issues with like Hashimoto's and thyroid issues. You have oxygen, which helps to boost your mental clarity and let your body burn calories more effectively. And it works as a good, it's one of the major components in the lymphatic system to detox the body. And probably our number one nutrient, because the byproduct of plants is oxygen. You get phytochemicals or phytonutrition. So these are, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of these plant chemicals or plant nutrients that have the ability to reverse and prevent disease. Wheatgrass is an example. I think the last time I looked, Oregon State University was studying one of the top phytochemical research places in the world, and they'd counted over, I think, 74,000 chemicals in wheatgrass that can heal the body and prevent it. And then the last one is enzymes. Enzymes are kind of like a catalyst of life. They are the electric. They are the carrier of electric. So they actually charge your cells with electric. So we're electric beings, and when you bring enzymes into the body, not only do they help you digest food, but they actually work in all the processes and charge the cells. So I'll give you an example. The University of Berkeley in California took a head of lettuce and they hooked it up to this machine that tested enzyme activity. They harvested the lettuce, waited half an hour, and tested it again. How much would you think the enzymes dropped in 30 minutes? It's about 52%. So half was gone. So think about this. If you pick a head of lettuce, a farmer, you got a big field out there, and then you put it in a storage thing for a day. The next day, a big truck shows up. They put it on the truck. They fill the truck full of nitrogen, and they ship it. 1,500 to 2,500 miles on average. That's how far our vegetables go and fruits. And then it shows up at the store. Then we go down and we pick it up. We throw it in the fridge, and then the next day we make a salad. Is there any enzymes in there? No. Hormones, oxygen, phytochemicals, most of that stuff, it just goes away. And there's still vitamins, minerals, and some trace minerals, but we're not getting that. It's actually a cool acronym, HOPE, 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 hormones, oxygen, phytochemicals, and enzymes. That's what you get from living foods. And when you put living foods in a living body, it works really well, and you're literally charging your cells. And that's why people at the Institute that have been on this program, they don't age like everybody else. I mean, there was the first doctor I talked to, Dr. Scott. I mean, this guy was like a muscle-bound. He was just like, I couldn't even believe it that he didn't eat meat. I couldn't believe it, because I thought you had to eat meat to get muscle. So it was, my whole world got shattered. I was like upside down, bizarre. What? I mean, how could this guy have so many muscles and he looks so young? He just turned 50 when I asked him that question. How old are you? And I said, dude, I thought you were maybe 40. And then there was a nurse that was like 52, and I thought she was 35 maybe. Dr. Clement, who's been running the place, he's like 70, and he looks like he's 50. So your body won't age like everyone else. We're not supposed to be aging like we're aging out there on the standard American diet. You put living foods into your life and get clean, and you too can join that club, and it's a lot of fun. I worked hard at this. I've been at it for 10 years, and I'm 47, and I have a lot of people that don't even think they think I'm 30. And it's a lot of fun, and your skin, it's just awesome. Your skin looks good because if you have a healthy gut, then your skin's going to look good.
And people don't realize that your skin is actually one of your organs. So if your skin is looking good, it means that your body's already taken care of all the internal organs and they're doing well, so that you could look good on the outside without all of those pharmaceutical help, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
So talk to us a little bit about the depletion of nutrients in the soil and how that's affecting the food, because of course, once the food is harvested, we've established that there's less nutrients in it and less oxygen and all of these other things. But then what if it's just not there in the first place?
Yeah, it's definitely not there. It's definitely not there. In fact, it was around the 1930s. Congress was, I don't know if they passed an act. It was something, I have to look it back up again, but it was like a national emergency because the soil depletion, it was so bad that people really needed to start supplementing. And today we're looking at around 85% of all nutrition that your body needs is farmed out of the soil. So if it's not in the soil, it's not going to be in the plant. And if you eat the plant, you're going to be deficient. Or if the animal that you eat is eating that plant, then the animal's deficient, right? And then on top of it, like you said, pesticides, fungicides, herbicides, larvicides, chemical fertilizers, they put in these synthetic jobs. And this is why plants are weak. And that's why we're weak. We're actually de-evolving as a species because we're eating these weak foods. I mean, it's like literally running around on 15% octane. And what we teach people is how to top off the tank so you can be back at 100% octane in your fuel, right? So, I mean, in the 70s, as an example, the kind of hippie type people were doing some good work, and they were protesting all this spraying that was going on apple orchards and orchards in general. And they were spraying these orchards like 6 to 7 times a year with these toxic chemicals. And why? Because the soil had gotten so weak that the trees had gotten weak, and then the bugs could attack the tree because the tree's defenses were down because it didn't have the proper nutrition. So spray, spray, spray. Today we're spraying about 16 to 17 times a year on these crops, on these trees. And they're missing the boat. Instead of going to the soil and remineralizing the soil with rock dust and permaculture and planting cover crops to bring the nutrients up, like alfalfa will send the roots down 100 feet or so, or using like ionic ocean minerals that they could spray very easily, they spray chemicals. So that's what we're teaching people. Don't be the tree that needs to be sprayed with chemicals, basically sprayed with toxins, sprayed with vaccines. You don't need to be sprayed with chemical supplements that pharmaceutical companies make. You don't need all these problems that are thrown on top of more problems. You just got to go to the root, literally, and you just need to start flooding your body with nutrition, real nutrition that has a full spectrum and a full complex, and then your body will come back to life.
I love that, getting to the root. Exactly. It's a good pun right there.
So, but how do people do that then? How do they get the nutrition from the foods that they think they are, that they're not? How do they get around that?
Yeah, there's two ways of doing it. Number one, you can learn how to grow your own food. And then you have to make sure that the seeds you are getting are grown in soils that are nutrient dense. All right. Because if the seeds that you're planting are grown in nutrient depleted soils, if it wasn't in the seed, then it won't be in the plant. So key number one is that you have to get heirloom seeds, and you have to work with the farmers and find the farmers that actually understand. You have to talk to them. What are your planting practices? How do you mineralize the soil? How do you keep soil nutrition up? And that's very quickly you can find out whether you're going to get good seeds or not. So growing your own garden, growing sprouts inside the house 24/7, 365 days a year like we do. That's one option. And for most people, they don't have that option. And then that's why, as a coach, I got through frustration trying to teach people how to juice. And, they buy a juicer and do it for a month, and then the juicer would end up under the cover. We created a super concentrated green formula. We actually call it Green 85 juice formula to replace that 85% of the nutrients missing in the soil. And it's very convenient because people are busy. So they can just take a scoop, shake it up, drink it in the morning, and do another one in the afternoon. And they're completely replacing what's missing in the soil. So supplementation today is not a luxury anymore. It's a necessity unless you're going to tend to your own soil, make sure you have good seeds, and grow your own food. Then you just have to supplement today because it's just not in the food.
That's unfortunate. And I speak to so many people who say, I just want to get everything from my food. I should be able to get everything from my food. And I was having I guess a bit of a debate with the B12 and the vitamin D with somebody from a while ago. And she's like, but I just want to get it in my food. And I'm like, well, if you're getting that in your food, it's fortified anyway. So you may as well make sure that you're getting it from a good source, right? And our idea of supplementation has changed a lot over the last 10 years because of the depletion of nutrients in the food that we're eating. But even if you don't supplement, you're still much better off eating the vegetables and the grains and the nuts and the seeds that are being grown, as opposed to having the animal products in your diet, and doing the best that you can and getting as much in, and definitely staying away from fried foods and all of that. There's a significant difference on how your health can improve. And then if you need to, which a lot of us sometimes do, then we add in what we need to add in. But yeah, the results that people get are definitely incredible. What do we need to know about combining foods? Which foods should be eaten together, shouldn't be eaten together? Or why don't we take a step back and just explain to the audience what combining foods really means?
Yeah, so what we learned about proper food combining is just, these are not rules or something to be really strict about, but they're more just guidelines to follow. And what we're looking here is we want people to have good digestion and assimilation of nutrients. That's what we want. And so when you eat food, there's two processes that are going to happen depending on what you eat and what you eat it with. It's either going to digest and absorb, or it's going to ferment and rot, and then it putrefy, and then because your body has to get it out, okay? And it's 98.6, and the body's going to be like, thank you for the food, and this works good. I'm going to digest this, and then I'm going to pass it through the system. I'm going to take the nutrients out of it, and then exit, out it goes. Or if it's mixed wrong, it's going to be like, well, I can't do much with this. It's going to rot and putrefy. And this is what I was doing with my lifestyle. Almost everything I ate I was doing improper food combining. And that's why I ended up with leaky gut syndrome, because that putrefaction process was destroying my intestinal villi, all those little hair-like structures that line the intestinal tract, which are basically the interface of your life force. I mean, the gut is the driving engine to your health. You have to take good care of that sucker. And I didn't know any about this stuff, and you can't see it. That's why people don't know how to take care of it, because nobody's been taught, and you can't see what's going on in there. So the guidelines are this. They're very simple. The first one is to never mix a protein with a starchy carbohydrate, right? And what's the standard American diet? You have a hamburger and a bun, a protein and a starchy carb, or hamburger and french fries. Or if you're a vegan, could be a nut butter sandwich. The nuts, the protein, and the bread, the starchy carb. That's the worst of all combinations. That covers about 50% of food combining. When you mix a protein with a starchy carbohydrate, you're going to create over 123 chemicals in the body, and one of them sulfur. That's what that smell that comes out of us is. And you're going to destroy and cause gut rot and fermentation. So like what we do on our clients is like, I had this one guy who was a CrossFit trainer. He was trying to get under 13% body fat, tried everything. It wasn't for a lack of working out. I mean, the guy was a personal trainer, high performance CrossFit competitor, owned his own gym, and he was mixing his foods all wrong. So I just got him off of rice, because we get people off of rice completely, except for maybe some wild rice. Put him on quinoa, and when he had the quinoa, we had him eat it with a lot of vegetables. If he was eating his meat, then we would have him eat it with a lot of vegetables, but not mix like meat and a sweet potato, right? And just by doing that, the gas and the bloating starts going away. So that's the biggest one, never mixing a protein with a starchy carbohydrate. Second one is don't mix vegetables with fruits. That's a big one. Fruits and vegetables require different enzymes to break them down. They also digest at different speeds. Fruits are going to digest in about a half an hour to an hour, and vegetables are going to be about 2 to 2.5 hours. So when you mix them together, you go right back to fermentation and gut rot. Now, there are some that go both ways. An avocado is a fruit vegetable. You can eat it with fruit or you can eat it with vegetable. There's also garlic and onions and the edible flowers from the lily flower family. Those can also go both ways with vegetables. So, and fruits. But pretty much everything else, just if you're going to eat fruit by itself. If you're going to eat vegetables by itself. Okay. Another one is fruit itself. There's different types of fruit. You have acid fruit, subacid fruit, and you have sweet fruit. So acid fruits would be things like oranges, lemons, limes, tangerines, grapefruits, these types of things. Subacid would be peaches, pears, plums, apricots, that kind of stuff. And then you would have the sweet fruit would be like bananas or dried fruit. These are the ones that have the highest sugar amount. And these are the ones that we recommend people stay away from the most because of the high sugar content, unless you're like a high-level athlete and you're burning that stuff off. Because we know that sugar feeds disease, period. And so if you're going to, and all fruit in general, people have to understand that fruit today has been hybrid so much, it's 30 to 50 times sweeter than its natural origin. So you're getting a tremendous amount of sweetness out of fruit because, think about it. When you're driving by a fruit stand, if it said sour apples, you're going to pull in there? Probably not. But if it says, sweet melons, you're, let's get a melon for the barbecue tonight. And you pull in and grab the big sweet watermelon. Who doesn't like that, right? So understanding of the hybridization and the amount of sugar in fruits, but then also if you're going to have fruit, eat it. If you're going to have, oranges, just eat oranges. Or if you're going to have plums, just eat plums. Or if you're going to have a banana, just eat a banana, but don't mix those things. Maybe you can do it for, celebrations, weddings, but just keep it to a minimal. And then the last one would be melons. If you're going to have melons, just eat them alone. That's it. Don't eat them with anything else. They digest the fastest. They take about 15 to 30 minutes. And, barbecues, what do? You have people have big hamburgers or a big veggie burger, and then at the end they go have a watermelon. That's a terrible thing to do because the best way to explain it is like the digestive tract highway is a 1-lane highway and it's about 1 inch long. And it goes from point A, your mouth, to point Z, your rectum. And if, let's say you come in and you have a nut butter, like a nut butter sandwich at this barbecue or a burger or whatever, and that's like a semi truck pulling up to the digestive highway. And you're sitting there going, well, hey, where are you going? Well, I'm going to go down the digestive tract highway. Well, how long is it going to take you? Oh, it's going to take me about 4 hours. All right, see you later. Have a good time. Off goes this big truck, this big semi, nice and slow. Now, about 10 minutes later, here comes Mrs. Melon because you decided to have some watermelon. Zoom, she comes in her Corvette, the top's down, hair's flowing. Where are you going, Mrs. Melon? Oh, I'm going down the digestive tract highway. Well, how long is it going to take you? About 15, 30 minutes. All right, have a good time. See you later. Zoom. And somewhere between point A and point Z, that car, that Corvette is going to slam into the back of that truck, and that's where digestion stops and fermentation begins. So it's the speed. We have to also think about the speed. So it'd make more sense to have the melon first, then 15, 20, 30 minutes later, then have your heavier meal, and then you won't have all this gas and bloating and fermentation and gut rot and end up with leaky gut like I did.
So what about salad? where would a green salad go? Because I know in Europe they tend to eat their salad at the end of the meal instead of before the meal.
Well, a green salad, I would. What else are they eating?
Their starchy protein meal, I guess.
Okay.
Right? They go like in Italy, they'll go by stages, and I've always wondered why the salad. I don't know if you know why the salad goes last. So they'll have their like first plate, which will be a pasta, then they'll have their second plate, which will be a protein, and then they'll have their third plate, which will be a salad. Does that make any sense in terms of?
It's improper food combining. Yeah. So if you're going to have a salad, you can have that starchy carb with it. If you're going to have meat or a protein, you can have the vegetables with it. But you just don't want to mix the proteins and the starchy carbs.
So and the starchy carbs would include that potato as well. That wouldn't include as a
potatoes,
right.
Sweet potatoes, yams, noodles, that kind of stuff. Even if it's gluten-free.
That means we got to stop having our sweet potato with black beans and salsa and nutritional yeast.
Are beans protein or are beans starchy? Because they're starchy on their own too. So where would beans fit in?
Yeah, well, first off, I believe that beans need to be soaked first. In fact, any nut, seed, grain, or bean needs to be soaked. You guys were talking earlier about wanting to get nutrition into people. Right? How can they do it? Well, on a budget especially. Soak your nuts. Soak your beans. Soak your grains. They become on average about 8 times more digestible. And how many of us have digestive tract issues today? And the nutritional factors go up about 100 to 800%. I mean, it's significant amounts of nutrition because you take a dormant bean as an example. And this is where people are having issues. They're like, paleo's against it and like Dr. Gundry's against beans and all this stuff. But, because the lectins and all that stuff. But if you soak that bean in water and sprout it first, those lectins go away, most of them. And then especially if you cook it, they're gone. So these beans are one of the most powerful powerhouses of nutrition that you could possibly put into your body. They almost resemble the matrix of mother's milk. If you look at mother's milk, as far as the high quality amino acids, the high quality fatty acids, and the starches that are in, and the carbohydrates that are in there. Beans are very close to mother's milk, and this has been used for Olympic level athletes for a long time.
And you're soaking the seeds as well, so the chia seeds and the hemp parts and all of those things.
Hemp,
and quinoa?
not hemp you don't soak, but quinoa you definitely want to at least rinse off because there's these things called saponins on quinoa that are actually, there's good saponins and bad ones. The ones on quinoa are bad. They will actually eat your intestinal lining over time. So you definitely just want to rinse them off once or twice. That'll take care of them. But even better, soak them for 4 to 6 hours. So the smaller the seed, it doesn't take as long. Chia is really quick. I mean, 10, 15 minutes, they're ready to eat. Whereas an almond or a walnut could take, you want to soak that sucker for about 8 to 12 hours. And then rinse it all off, and then consume it or dehydrate it over a couple days under 115 degrees, and then you have it for long-term storage.
So some of this information that we're talking about today, I haven't researched myself, and so some of the big juicy questions I might not have, or maybe I have them because I haven't necessarily researched myself. But there's people out there for sure listening now who are saying, I eat my veggie burger with a bun, and I'll have half a watermelon along with my barbecue dinner or whatever it is, and I feel fine. Does that mean that everybody now needs to throw their hands in the air and go running in circles and start doing everything? Or are we just saying that people who are not getting the results that they think that they should be getting on a plant-based diet, if they make these small changes, can have absolute crazy results? Or are we saying these people who do feel good will be getting more nutrition into their body because the body will be absorbing it more and will be creating less fermentation within the body?
Yeah, I think anytime people make changes, you have to do it from a place of love. You have to be loving yourself. I don't eat perfect. Sometimes I'm like, I'm doing improper food combining tonight, So it's like, I know it. I'll just take extra digestive enzymes. But when I do stuff like that, I really focus and be very grateful and know that my body's going to handle it and that kind of stuff. So the people out there listening, I'm not saying scrap everything the way you're eating and everything, but just if you feel like you want to try it out, maybe you want to improve your digestion a little bit, or maybe you want to try to feel a little bit better. If you think everything's fine, then just stay there. That's okay. But there's a lot of people out there that are having gas and bloating and fermentation, or they're just not feeling good. And it's really hard to heal the gut when there's fermentation going on. It's not conducive a healing environment. It creates an acid-based environment, gas and bloating. So for those people struggling that want to get better, like proper food combining, that's why I made it a big deal, and I teach a class on it. It's that important. It's foundational. So trying to heal with a fermented gut is not, it's like taking a step forward and 2 steps back, basically, as far as I'm concerned. And it's so simple. It's so simple. Just to, you can still eat the same foods, just eat them if you love eating, sweet potatoes, then eat them with a bunch of vegetables. Just don't have a nut butter with them or whatever. You know what I mean?
So what about a nut butter with banana?
That would be
kind
a fruit
of starchy and sugary
and a protein. Yeah, well, when you mix, well, first off, it's the sugars and stuff, but with a nut, that would be a protein and a fat with a sugar. So that really wasn't. Probably the best thing to do is just try it out. You could do it, but I would recommend again to not do the bananas unless you're like really, really active. Really active. And then once you're well, then you can go back, and that's what we say, because I deal with a lot of people. A third of my clients are cancer patients. So I'm coming from a different perspective. Another third are high-level athletes that are trying to really improve, and then a third are people just wanting to lose weight or look younger and that kind of stuff. So I always come from a real powerful point of really trying to help people that are healing, that are, having issues. So we just try to get, we try to get the sugar out as much as possible. I looked at the molecule structure of sugar, and it's almost identical to cocaine. If you look at the molecular structure, if you guys have ever seen that, yeah. And it's about 3 times more addictive. So it just feeds all disease, and it causes problems. So, we just try to get people off of that kind of stuff as much as we can.
So if somebody wants to research this more and see some of the good research that's out there, where can they look?
They have more information at the Hippocrates Health Institute. That's where I actually started learning it from the very beginning. Or they could just research, and Google proper food combining. I also shot on my podcast, The Health Hero Show. I have a whole episode on there about proper food combining, and I go into deep detail on it. So that would be another place.
So you told us earlier that you had some big secrets that you wanted to share with our audience. So you have 4 core secrets. Maybe you could share those with us. That'd be great.
Yeah, so these got developed because I had thousands of people coming over to my house for these living food classes and juicing classes, and they'd get all excited, and they would, how did you do this, Tim? I'm like, well, I bought a juicer, and I started growing these sprouts, and I started juicing twice a day, and then I got all excited, and they were feeling good, and like, I'm doing it. And then, like I said, about a month, 2 months later, the juicer's under the cupboard because they got to clean the juicer. It's a 45-minute process, especially in the beginning. I can do it in like 15 minutes now because I'm good at it. But the beginning, it's like 45 minutes. It's an ordeal, right? And a lot of people just didn't have time. So they said, look, Tim, why aren't you doing this? And they said, I need something simple. I need a plan. So I went back home, and I'm like, what could I share with people that would produce the most results, take the least amount of effort? We came up with 3 things originally. We added 1 more. The first one, and less than 5% of the population is doing this, is drinking enough water. So we recommend half your body weight in liquid ounces of purified water. And if you live in the city, then your water needs to be restructured because the high pressure pipes in the city coagulate these water molecules. They make them so that they won't go through the intestinal lining that well. So you drink a lot of water and you're just peeing it out. If you're on city water, you get restructured water. Oh my God, it just disappears. And then it comes out later, about 2-3 hours later, and then you pee a lot. So we know it's working much better. So if you're a 200-pound person, that'd be 100 ounces a day. If you're a 100-pound person, that would be 50 ounces a day. If you're a high-level athlete or live in an arid climate, you'd probably bump that up about 20-25% more. I had one lady that did that one thing, and she dropped 50 pounds in 8 months simply by adding water to her life. Your body's mostly made of it, and less than 5% of people are doing it. So there's a big opportunity here for the people listening that aren't drinking water. Your life's going to change big time. Your mental clarity is going to improve. Not having enough water is the difference between finding your car keys or hunting around for them for 10-15 minutes. It's a big difference. And your digestive tract definitely needs it. And the Royal Society of Medicine said that 85% of all disease starts in the colon. And I totally believe that. And if you're not drinking enough water and your body's dehydrated, where's the first place your body goes to get water? Well, it's the colon. So that's where this all this buildup starts happening, and that's why the average person has about 6 to 12 pounds of fecal material and mucoid plaques build up in the intestinal tract. So drinking water is a big deal. Okay, number 2. Core secret number 2, less than 4% of people are doing this, and that's chewing your food until liquefied. This is a major advancement in technology. You have these teeth, right? And all you got to do is like chew your food really well. Most people are just engulfing their food like I used to. And it's the first domino in digestion. You have 2 ducts in your upper mouth and 4 in your lower mouth that secrete these enzymes, amylase and lipase. These break down your starches and your fats. And if you don't preload your food with that so that those digestive enzymes can go into your gut and break your starches and your fats down, you're going to have fermentation and gut rot. And another benefit of chewing your food is that I learned this from Dr. Gabriel Cousins, who's like 80 years old and can do like 30 pull-ups. The guy's amazing. You guys probably know him, right? Have you had him on your show?
No, not yet.
Yeah, you should. He's like, living proof of what's possible, and he's super living fooder. He eats everything living. So he said that when your meridian points on the teeth are hitting and you're chewing your food well, you can actually boost up your serotonin by up to 500%. The happy juice. Like, how many people are depressed today? So just by chewing your food more, you're going to be happier. You're going to digest your food better. Core secret number 3 is, now that you're chewing your food really well and you've preloaded with all these enzymes, avoiding liquids with meals. Less than 2% of the population's doing this. So if you drink, even if it's purified, restructured water or a wine or a beer or apple juice, organic, it doesn't matter. Those enzymes, now that you've chewed them really well and they're in your stomach, if you drink liquids, you dilute them and you go back to fermentation and back to gut rot. And we don't want that. So for beginners, stop drinking liquids if you want to, a half an hour before you eat, and then start drinking liquids again 1 hour after you eat. And if you're stage 4 something or Olympic level athlete, then we tell people stop drinking liquids an hour before and then wait 2 hours after you eat and then drink a lot of liquids again. And then the last secret is core secret number 4, and less than 1% of the population is doing this, and that's to simply take a moment and do some breath exercises just for a minute or 2 before you eat. Because would you guys agree we live in a stressed out lifestyle today?
Oh, yeah.
You think?
I mean, before COVID hits, you still have, mom and dads both going to work and kids and taking care of parents, and, there's autistic children, high needs children, and just there's a financial stress. There's just so much. 74% of people don't like the job they're in, and then throw COVID on top of it. Okay, there's a lot of stress going on. Your body doesn't know the difference. It's like, it feels like you don't think you're stressed, but there's a saber-toothed tiger chasing you. So the blood leaves the organ systems and it goes out to the extremities to fight or flight, and you're not going to get good digestion. So simply by being mindful and taking some deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth, or however you want to do it, just taking a moment and calming down, the blood will rush back into the digestive tract, and now you can digest your food really well and not have that fermentation and gut rot. And I promise those of you listening, if you learn to stack these 4 things together in your life, it's going to make a huge impact on your gut health and your overall health and your happiness, and it really works.
Don't seem to be too difficult, so I don't know why more people are not doing it. Maybe they just don't know about these things, right?
Yeah. Well, sometimes, your mom says chew your food, you're like, I ain't doing it,
Yeah.
Or you're so hungry from your stressed out life that you're literally swallowing every bite.
Right.
And you forget. So what we do, like, people pay me a lot of money to coach them one-on-one. And the first onboarding call, what we do is I have them pull out their phone and program these things into their phone so they don't forget. So at lunchtime, it'll say, chew food, avoid liquids, breath, probiotics, enzymes. And then every day, they get hit with that. And within 3 to 4 months, we've programmed the subconscious mind, and they have a hard time forgetting it. So that's it. Television programming, they call it. We're programming us, so we can use that to our own benefit and program ourselves. And you can use this for anything. You want to play the guitar? Reminder, call mom. All these things that you want to do. Yeah, all these things you want to do, you can just program it into your phone and let it train you.
Amazing. Very fascinating information. This is why we do the show, so that we could learn things from our guests. So thank you for sharing all that with us. For our listeners who want to reach out and connect with you, where would be the best place for them to go?
The best place is probably just our website, chemicalfreebody.com. I put together a discount code for you guys. It's just plant trainers.
Thank you.
So if you guys want to try out some of our products, they're real food. They're raw. They're wild crafted. There's no slave labor. Everything's hand harvested and air dried or sun dried under 110 degrees. And we have detox and nutrition products, and we have these things called savings bundles for people to start off with if they're not sure. And we're happy to do consults, free consults to anybody at any time if they need further help.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you so much. I'm sure the audience will appreciate that a lot. We're so grateful for your time today. Yeah, thank you.
We're going to put those links in our show notes at planttrainers.com so people could find you and get that discount code and check out your products. So thank you so much, Tim, for joining us on the Plant Trainers podcast. We really do appreciate your time.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate you guys having me on, and I like your shirt.
Thank you.
Training for life.
That's right.
Always training for life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can tell you guys are healthy. You guys have really good skin, and you're happy, and you got the 2 smiles going. And congratulations on your podcast and your relationship and your health.
Awesome. Thank you so much.